Welcome to the Advancing Entrepreneur. This show is all about surrounding yourself for success. Hear stories of building traction, gaining acceleration, and creating results from successful entrepreneurs who have surrounded themselves with other successful entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Annette Nightingale James.
All right, we are recording. Hello, entrepreneurs. Annette Nightingale James back here for another episode of the Advancing Entrepreneur, where we help you get traction, acceleration, and results. Today, we are joined by Pace Smith. Hi, Pace.
Hello.
A little intrigue. We'll get some music going on there. Very cool. Well, Pace, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to our audience, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you so that you can tell them even more. Pace Smith is a pathfinding coach. She helps sensitive, spiritual misfits follow their hearts to a wild, crazy, meaningful life. Pace, you got to give us some more info.
So a pathfinding coach, as a pathfinding coach, I help sensitive spiritual misfits find their path, which is like following your heart, finding your calling. And a lot of times that leads you to entrepreneurship. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the people that tend to end up working with me are more like accidental entrepreneurs. Like they want to accomplish something and they want to blaze their own trail and not follow in somebody else's footsteps. And that means that they've got to strike out on their own because there's no boss that's going to say, you know what, I'm going to boss you around to do whatever your own heart wants. Like if you find that boss, let me know.
Would you please let us all know here at the Advancing Entrepreneur? I think there's a lot of people that would be interested in finding that person. So I get it. I like it. I like how specific you are. It's also very whimsical. So I imagine that it took a little bit of time to come up with your particular phrasing and finding your place there. So I just want our audience to know listening that it's a really cool tagline that Pace has. I'm not even sure that's the right word, tagline, but it didn't come overnight. Okay. She worked really hard for it. And if you continue to, adjust and go through your business and find things that work for you, then you're going to come up with something super cool like Pace has too. Well, Pace, I want you to share. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add that this is like my 8th tagline. And all I needed to start with was to get one that was good enough to get some people to show up. And then each time I just changed it a little bit based on who actually did show up. And the people who showed up were basically sensitive spiritual misfits. And it just took a while of, finding the right name to call them that they said, yeah, that's totally me. What drives me is the feeling of really helping people. I I remember a time when I was so lost and just kind of feeling empty and helping people in a way that they actually come up to me and say, wow, this helped me so much. That is the feeling that really got me into entrepreneurship in the first place, and it's totally the feeling that keeps me going. So just following that feeling.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, so springboard that right into us. How did you get started in your business? Was there a story or a turning point for you when you're like, oh, it's time to start and this is what I'm going to do? I want you to share that story with our audience today.
Yeah, so that story, background, I went to college to be a professional geek. I studied artificial intelligence and I got a job working as a computer programmer for an artificial intelligence company. So I would just, program code all day and that sort of thing. And at first I thought it was pretty cool, but then the day that everything changed was when I gave a communication presentation to a group of people over the weekend. It was a gathering in which the facilitators asked everyone who showed up to volunteer to share something that they knew with the rest of the group. It was kind of like an informal workshop or presentation. And I'm like, communication and relationships, like that's something that I talk a lot. I've picked up a few things. And so I just scribbled some notes on a whiteboard of like useful communication, relationship tips and tricks, and gave this presentation. And that was the first time that I felt that feeling that we were just talking about. I felt like I really helped people, and it was like falling off a log for me. I'm just sharing this stuff that I do every day. It doesn't feel remarkable to me. And just about everybody who was in the audience came up and said, wow, that was really helpful. And a couple of people even said, this helped me this weekend. I put it into practice tonight. And then they came to me tomorrow and said, I tried it out, the tips and tricks that you shared, and it actually worked, and it helped resolve a miscommunication that happened today. And that was just like, this is what I want. I don't want to be just, sitting in a dark room with a bunch of geeks. I love my geeks. They're awesome. But that feeling just wasn't there in that day job. So that's when I started figuring out, what can I do to feel this way more of the time.
So I love that too. I think if any of our listeners have been listening to the last several episodes, that theme is coming up a lot. That what you are dismissing in your life as something that you just know, or common sense, or everybody gets this, is what other people will pay you to teach them or pay you to do for them in their life or their business. So if you're dismissing kind of a talent that you have as, oh, nobody's going to pay for that, they're already doing it. Take another look at that, because we've had quite a few people on the show so far that have been like, I just raised my hand to answer a question and 20 people lined up to talk to me because, I thought everybody knew it. So very cool, very cool. All right, cool. So tell us about a time in your business when you knew it was time to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs. Did you have some kind of some kind of story that happened, or did you just, were you naturally drawn to plugging in, and share with our audience too, how do you plug into communities of entrepreneurs to support you?
Yeah. I was overconfident, and I thought, oh, I'm good at everything. I can just learn this myself. I don't need help. So I was not naturally drawn to connecting with other entrepreneurs. I have been in several communities and learning programs, but the one that really tipped it for me was a program called Opening the Money Flow, which was run by Mark Silver of Heart of Business. It was the first one that I found that was run, that just didn't have any cheesy or skeezy. Mark Silver was a guy that I really respect, and very ethical and heart-centered. And I'm like, all right, I can learn business from this guy. And it was a big investment. It was about $10,000 for, I think now it's a year-long program, but back then it was 6 months. And it took a bit of a leap of faith to actually invest in, getting a business mentor and a coach to really help out. And there was a community aspect with that too. I wasn't the only one in the group. So we did have, kind of a peer mastermind of people who were in similar positions, but it was mainly like a coaching and mentoring situation.
So very cool. I love that. Leaps of faith. The thing about, moving forward in your business, entrepreneurs, is that if you're going to stop and hold back, and I only have, this much money left, so I'm going to hold on to this much money. We want you to make wise money choices in your business. But if it's not a matter of crippling, if it's just a matter of stretching yourself, if you do not keep moving forward, resources are going to stop. It's almost, I always tell my students, like one of those Indiana Jones moments. You have to almost put your foot out there and start stepping down, and the bridge will appear as long as you're making those investments in a wise fashion. So I love that you pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that's really important if you're still growing your business, if you're still, putting all the pieces together and figuring it out.
Yeah. Can I tell a quick story about that? Because this was actually the second time. The first time I leapt and the floor appeared and hit myself in the face. The second time was Opening the Money Flow. The first time I said, oh, no problem. I got this. I've got a certain amount of savings. I'm just going to quit my day job and just grow a fully functioning business in 6 months. No problem, right? And, and I quickly realized that this was not going to happen. And I smacked my face into that floor, and what I did is I had a long money conversation with my wife, and we ended up slashing our living expenses in half, so that we could and I had a talk with my boss at my day job, and I went down to half time at my day job. So that gave me the spaciousness that the day job was then paying the bills, and I could grow my business at a slower pace, um, until I got to the point where I was ready to make that leap into opening the money flow.
Yeah, it's such an interesting balance because you have to take
Yeah.
risks and you have to jump out on your own. But if you get yourself into a position where all you can think about is your bills every day, you're not even going to be able to help other people. So I love the fact that you went to like halftime at your job. Entrepreneurs, you have to keep the money flowing or you will become crippled, because there's a saying that I learned years ago, and I love it. And it says that you cannot change the world if you can't pay the rent.
Right on.
And that's exactly because you will just be so crippled with worrying about money all the time. So balance it. So again, if it's get the bill taken care of and take your risks after that. And do what Pace did. Be willing to make sacrifices in your life. Don't try to live this high-end lifestyle and then start the business on the side, because then you'll be too comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you tend to remain stagnant. So many good lessons we got going on here. All right. So tell us, from the Money Flow group and the peer mastermind that you had going on, give us an example of a really great aha moment or a pivot point that came out of that group that's led you to the business that you have now.
One of those moments for me was the third annual World Changing Writing Workshop. Just a sec. So we got together a really impressive lineup of writers and teachers. And the first year, it was a smash hit. Second year, new lineup, smash hit. Third year, we got even bigger. Got Julia Cameron, author of The Artist's Way, Barbara Sher, the author of Refuse to Choose. And it was just like, we got this great lineup. It's going to be even better. And totally tanked. Got a quarter as many signups as the previous 2 years. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I got no idea what's going on. But luckily, this overlapped with when I was in Opening the Money Flow, and I asked Mark's advice. And Mark suggested doing a pay what you want offer. And I checked in with my heart, and that felt like the right thing to do. And so I made that offer. And it was like the best 24 hours of my entire business. I put systems in place so that I didn't have to handle all of the logistics. I could just like look at all of the offers as they came in and just like see if it felt right and just say yes. I just spent like 24 hours saying yes, 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 and feeling so much generosity and receiving lots of money. It ended up, not being quite as financially successful as the first two, but still way more than breaking even. And so the aha for me was humility. Just because it worked before doesn't mean it's going to work again. And being in the entrepreneur business for 2 years doesn't mean that you've got everything figured out. There's always time to keep beginner's mind, always time to learn more. And maybe not good to bet your entire year's financial projections on one launch.
But way to pivot, that a lot of entrepreneurship is about pivoting. So that's a great story of pivoting. All right. So tell us, where has that brought you to today? What are you working on? What do you want to talk to our audience about? What do you want to share with them?
Yeah. So the most recent phase of my business has been focusing on what works and doing more of that. And I have, thrown a bunch of stuff against the wall just to see what sticks. And the one thing that's always been consistently awesome has been pathfinding coaching. And that is just like one-on-one or group coaching, helping people find their callings. And so I recently redid my website and did a minor rebrand to make pathfinding be front and center. It's in terms of sales funnels, like that's the thing at the bottom of the funnel. And so I still do a lot of other stuff. I still teach classes. I love teaching, but kind of like all roads lead to pathfinding. So what I'm really working on now is just doing more coaching and more finding ways to take the lessons that I learn from the coaching and like share them on my blog and in my newsletter and things like that, and learning more so that I can become an even better coach.
So very cool. And it's amazing when you're the one coaching, it's amazing how much stuff you learn or are reminded of, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I know, it's like you could probably write a blog post a day, no problem, as long as you're continuously coaching. Because if it's not them teaching you something, it's being reminded of something. So that and putting content together, you're like, oh, look at all this great information I know. I better start applying more of it. So, which you often hear authors say, oh, if I only took my own advice, you know. So it's a great way to grow just as a person, is to be somebody else's coach and to put content pieces together. So if you're out there working on that now, just know that you're going to have a lot of good lessons headed your way, which makes for more content and blog posts and podcasts and stuff. So it works out really well.
Yes.
Well, Pace, I want to take our audience through a little speed round with you so that they can get to know you a little bit better. And I call it playing favorites. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Tell us, what is your favorite charity?
Ooh, I don't have a favorite charity. I like to set aside a little bit of money each month and give it to somebody who inspired me. The bad news is that you're falling through the air, nothing to hold on to, no parachute. The good news is that there is no ground. Chogyam Trungpa.
Wow, I like it. I've not even heard that before. Tell us, what is your favorite discovery? Do you have an app or a resource that you use in your business?
Lately, I've been using Boomerang a lot. It's a Gmail add-on that lets you say, give me this email back in a week. I don't want to deal with it now. Or only boomerang it back to me if nobody replies within a week.
That's awesome.
It's totally awesome.
Oh, I love that. My inbox is stacked right now. It is stacked. I've been like going through and checking emails and only replying to stuff I have to, because I have like a totally loaded week on scheduling this week. And I'm like, I'm going to have to sit down and to go through it like later on. And I know I'm going to have to weed through the stuff I have opened and haven't opened. So I love that I could send it off and it would come back to me. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. My favorite use for that is emailing potential clients and saying like, hey, would you like to book a time with me? And then I just say, boomerang in 1 week if no reply. And that way I don't have to worry about it if they book it. But if they don't, I can follow up and be like, oh, hey, how's it going?
Very cool. That's amazing.
So
awesome.
nice.
I love it. I'm so excited. Tell us, what is your favorite song?
Ooh, it's got to be Adventure by Disaster Piece from the Fez soundtrack. I listen to a lot of video game music.
Okay, very good. Is that also the song that you use to get you pumped up?
That is not a pump up song.
That's not what. Do you have a pump up song too?
Yeah, that would be Illmerica by Wolfgang Gartner.
Okay, very cool. I noticed a distinction, asking a couple people that. I noticed a distinction on that. So I think I'm going to split that question in two from now on, so that we can get both sides of it. What is your favorite business book?
My favorite business book is not a business book at all. It is The Bialy Pimps by Johnny Truant. It's a book about a bagel deli. And it has no business lessons at all, except there's one point at which the main characters realize that they have basically no oversight and no consequences, and they can do basically anything they want with their bagel deli. And they go crazy, and then business starts booming. And the reason that I call that my favorite business book is I often get caught in a loop of thinking like, oh, I have to do it the right way. And when
should.
Exactly. And when I just let go and say like, why not install a face kicking machine? Then, everything awesome happens.
Very cool. I saw one of those graphical quotes on Facebook the other day. A friend of mine who's also an entrepreneur posted it. He said, I'm currently unsupervised. I know, I'm scared too, but the possibilities are endless. And I'm like, I am stealing that. And I'm going to repost that someday. So it's kind of like that, right? When you let it go. Would that double as your favorite novel as well then? Or do you have another book that you would count as your favorite novel?
Oh, my favorite novel. My favorite novel is going to be Past Watch by Orson Scott Card.
So cool. Cool.
Yeah.
I love getting new recommendations for books to read, and I read a lot of both. I find that the fiction or the novel books are a nice escape, but I always come back to the business lessons just the same way you did. I find business lessons in like every single movie. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I don't think anybody else is getting it. So, well, Paige, that's the end of playing favorites. But to move on here, I would like you to share one piece of advice that you as yourself would give that version of yourself that was just getting started. What would you say to that person?
I would say you don't have to do something new every single time. You don't have to create a new course every time you want to teach a course. You can teach the same course twice. You can leverage and reuse content you've already created. I think that would have led to a much happier, less exhausted, past pace.
Absolutely. I find myself trying to rewrite stuff and then realizing that I had like something I could have reworked or something.
Yeah.
And the benefit, entrepreneurs, to your audience is just like you reread the same book or listen to the same teaching over and over, they need to hear it again. So you're not doing a disservice. You're doing a service by putting it out there again. In fact, just piling on new stuff can be overwhelming for your audience. So don't be afraid to teach the same course or take 2 courses and combine them, or just rework some articles and get them back out there, because we all need to hear things over and over again. So very good. I like that. Well, Paige, I want you to tell our audience where they can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
You can find me at pacesmith.com.
So it's the best name in the world, by the way. That's just, it's cool. It just is. Very good. Well, Paige, thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us today. Audience, go to iamadvancing.com, type Pace in the search bar, and we're going to pull up her show notes page with how to connect to her website, her favorite books, her favorite quote, and all that other good information at iamadvancing.com. For now, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye, Pace. Thank you for helping us advance.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Annette.
Very good.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Advancing Entrepreneur. If you enjoyed it, leave us a rating and review. Not only will it make our day, you'll also be helping others find this show and advance their own careers. Once you're done, be sure to head on over to iamadvancing.com and join our community to learn what it takes to be an advancing entrepreneur and surround yourself for success. Thanks again, and get ready to advance.